What's up, traders? Eric here from MajorLeagueTrading.com. This video is going to be a little different than normal nightly videos here. I want to break down a trade from today in Microsoft here and really just kind of dive into what it was, how it's set up, how long we waited for this trade, and then how we ended up ultimately being able to play it in conjunction with the overall indices here in the markets. So, with that being said, this was a swing trade for me. I was able to pick it up yesterday and close out of it today. So I did hold it overnight, but it ended up running for 687%, which was super cool. And we can kind of walk through and script the whole thing out, which is what I like to do on essentially every single trade. So I like to write out what it is I'm looking for, what it is I want to see from it, what it is I want to see from the markets, and all of the things combined. When we get those things to align, then it's like, okay, cool. I already wrote this. I already know what it is I want to do. And then we're just able to go, boom, execute upon it, and then manage it from there. So with that being said, the trade here was in Microsoft, and it was a swing trade, as I mentioned here, from this 334.71 level all the way up into 346.74. Now, it front ran the level right here. You can see by just a little bit there, 346.50s, the high there, 346.51s. So like 23 cents ahead of that level, just in front of it. But ultimately, we were able to kind of come up here and rally up and tag that level again here towards the end of the day. So we did finally get that level test here. And this is kind of the definition, if you will, of a level-to-level move. So 334.71s was super important to hold. Those of you in the mentorship will understand why that level was important for the retest and hold. Very much the same as the level in which we had for Meta. So these were the two in which I was watching. The level there for Meta was going to be 297.12s, in which I was looking for to see test yesterday. Can show the Discord and talked about that one as well, where this now has room up into 316 bucks here, which we're basically almost there. So they were almost the same trade in a way from the level to level perspective, but with slight little nuances there from the higher time frame charts. So anyways, with that being said, I want to kind of talk through this one. So when we look at Microsoft here, the biggest thing in which stands out right now was the daily chart here. So without giving away too much detail, right, is we had a level in place last week when earnings came out, and that level was 346.74s. And if we go back right here, you can see we were able to spike up and trade that 351.95s. That's where that earnings high level came from. Again, it's not a traditional level. It's just marked as the earnings high there. And you can see that, of course. So with this one, the idea today coming into the markets after the earnings was, hey, if we can get through 346.74s, then there's a lot of room here for this to potentially move. 351.95s would be our good first target, and then from there would be 360s. Now, as we can see, that doesn't happen. We trade a high here of 346.20s, and then ultimately end up pulling back for 2 days in this market, right? Now, from there, there's a couple little things that make a lot of sense here with this chart, and this topping tail being one of them, right? So this topping tail ends up being last Friday. We were able to open, rally, trade lower, but not under Thursday's low. And then as we came into this week here, so Monday, Tuesday, today being Wednesday, as we came into today, you can see on Monday we had good strength coming out of Microsoft, right? That's a pretty decent bullish looking daily bar in Microsoft. Now, the reason in which that is important is because inside the Discord here, I have this Eric's Brain Dump channel, which I'm kind of getting in a little bit of a groove and dropping some more stuff in here from just a charting perspective and levels and things like that. So yesterday here being to last evening, right, essentially, Microsoft strength looks good, right? That would be me coming into the day on Tuesday, looking at yesterday's price action, right? So, which would be the 31st. That would be this day right here coming in before the bell. So Microsoft strength looks good. And then a couple minutes later here we wrote, in a picture perfect world, we would get NASDAQ back down to 340.50s. So remember that 340.50 level. And then Microsoft down into 334.71s for a retest. The trade might still have to wait for tomorrow, which is the only part, right? So that was the only thing in which I thought is, hey, we might have to wait until tomorrow for that to potentially set up. Now, the thing in which I was waiting for in terms of saying, hey, waiting for tomorrow, is the likelihood here was that we would create some sort of daily 1, 2, 3 pattern in here, which is nice green bar, small red bar, maybe bottoming tail, doesn't have to have it. And then a green bar that either opens right above that and then gets that next leg to the upside, right? A 1, 2, 3. So to jump over into the morning write-up here, which is where I like to script out my plays and what it is I want to do, what it is I want to see. Right here was the one from this morning. So Microsoft, there was no levels here to work with. So we only really had that 346.74s above to run to. So I wrote, there's no levels to work with, but we have the daily 1, 2, 3 with room into 341.95s for earnings highs. Looks really good. We'll use OP, which is opening print, for a trend above that for continued longs on the day, right? We're going to play that daily 1, 2, 3. We're going to use the opening print as our guide, right? So trend above that, we get continued longs. There's a front target at 346.74. If we're able to get into that here this morning, it would be nice, right? So that was the Microsoft plan. Now, before we dive into the plan just a little bit more, I want to go back to the NASDAQ here, because what was important out of the NASDAQ was that 340.50 level that traded down here and managed to hold, right? This would be Tuesday. This ultimately ends up happening prior to Microsoft trading that 334.71 level. So again, remember, we've got the 334.71s, we've got the 340.50s in the NASDAQ, and again, in our picture perfect world, that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for NASDAQ 340.50s, Microsoft 334.71s. So with that, we can go back into today's plan, which is kind of right here. So for the S&Ps, I was looking at this and going, okay, Russell's the weakest. It was the leader yesterday. Today's telling a little bit of a different story. We'll kind of keep an eye on that. S&Ps have room into 42, 43 quarters on the day. And I'm thinking we run up and tag that from the open. The same level for the NASDAQ is 14,637.50s. Now, this gives us plenty of room to move here this morning, and most likely inside of the first hour, a morning divergence for longs, and I would be looking to play that with good risk to reward into targets. So let's take a look at the S&Ps and the NASDAQ. Again, remember that we're looking for this move to happen inside of the first hour of the day. And if we can get a morning divergence for longs, then we can play that, right? So taking a look at the S&Ps, here's 42.43 quarters right there. This trades at 10:24 this morning, right inside of our first hour move that we were looking to capture, right? We were able to finally get up into 42.43 quarters. And this is one that, if we pull this over here from the chat, if you look, 42.43 quarters, we've actually been talking about this one for a while. So actually, this one's in the mentorship chat where I marked 42.43 quarters. We started talking about this one this morning at 9:19, and then essentially talked about, hey, we're good to 42.43 quarters, ES 42.43 quarters, get there, blah, 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 all the way. And then boom, finally 10:27, that bar was 10:24. We were able to go ahead and tag that, got it typed in there, right? Now, that same level, again, for the NASDAQ was 14,637.50s. Now, with this, we wrote inside of here that a morning divergence for longs, and I'll be looking to play that with good risk to reward up into targets. Here is that morning divergence. If you notice, the first bar of the day for the S&Ps and the NASDAQ sets the low of the day. 10 to 15 minutes into the day, we get a pullback here out of the Russell and the Dow, while the S&Ps are pushing back up to opening print, right? That's that morning divergence that we were looking for and talking about inside of our morning write-up, inside of our morning plan. Now, that level here for the S&Ps, as we can see, is 21.50s. That's that opening print level. If we come over here to the chat and we go 42.21.50s, oops, 42.21, maybe 42.21.50s. Oh, hold on, 21.50s. There we go. At 9:37, S&P's over 21.50s and pullbacks that hold. Now again, if we type in OP here, that's going to be that same level of 21.50s, and we'll scroll down here and take a look as to what we were looking for and talking through there, right? We would have to go way back here and look at opening print. So we talk about opening print every single day. Again, today, 9:19, going to use opening print as a gauge. 9:33, hey, waiting for S&Ps to get back over opening print, right? So all of these things combined, coming together, everything's going according to our plan. And with that, all in which we had to do with Microsoft here was just continue to hold the position. All of the things in which we wanted to see a trend above the open, right? Talking about our morning write-up here, over 339.79s. The low of the day here is 339.65s. 14 cents is all we pulled back from the open of today, and then we just continued to trend from there. Now, you take all of those things kind of combined with the levels, with the setup, the pattern, where we were in the overall markets, that morning divergence, all of these things led to us being able to just hold on to this position. And I went ahead and pulled up a chart here of the just options pricing here. So you can see the low of day yesterday was 19 cents, right? And this is right in and around where we were able to pick these up for 24 cents yesterday. And what we did here was the 350 calls for this week. And you can see there was actually some pretty decent volume spikes that came in. These were like back-to-back over like 1,000 contracts here on each of these. So like 4,000 contracts traded just like right through, this moment in time. Those spikes were not me. But 1,000 plus contracts kind of hitting through there at that time, 4,000 contracts total. So big moves kind of came in there. I'm not one to watch volume. I don't really care. I just noticed it when I pulled up the options pricing chart here, so I figured I'd point it out. But it ended up working out really, really nicely because we were able to pick these up for 24 cents yesterday, and the highest exit price in which I had today was $1.65, and you can see the high here is $1.70. Now, I want to make a point on this though, because right up here at these highs, this is 1045. If we hover this kind of right through here, you can see this is right inside of that front run of the level, right? The level is right there, 346.74. We're not quite there. This position just went from 24 cents. So every $24 in which I put into this position, which at this moment in time up here, I think I only had 5 contracts left, at $1.65. So I was able to scale out some of my positions at 92 cents, 99 cents, $1.19, $1.24, $1.35. I think I got some off at $1.47 or $1.48. And then that last little tranche I was able to get off at $1.65, right? So from that move, it's like, how much more am I really going to make if we get this extra 20 cents, right? And this is a really important point, is right up through here where I went flat, I ended up writing this in the chat, and I'll bring it over and show you, was right here. So literally no sense in being a dick for a tick, right? 1048 at that moment in time, right up through here, right? So at the same time, though, I want to point this out where when we came up into this point, right, we were already at the 42, 43 quarter level for the S&Ps, right? And that was important. So we held right through here. We were able to hold this little pullback on those contracts. And you can see if we pull this over here, these things went from, $1.47, $1.49 on the highs and pulled all the way back here to a low of $1.17 and then was able to pop back up there, right? At that moment in time, it really doesn't make any sense for me to continue to hold this to try and just capture that extra little bit of target there, which might have been another nickel to 12 cents roughly. When we're right in front of that level, we've already captured a big move. We've got the indices into the level in which we want. We're basically just inside that first hour of the day still. I mean, we're 15 minutes over it, but we're basically still right there. And we have FOMC. We've got all these things coming out, kind of later on in the day, which did cause a nice divergence down there at the lows. I don't know if anybody saw that here, where the Russell came down, made new lows on the day by one tick. None of the other markets did. And then that's what pushed us up into the new highs here towards the end of the day at that 743 quarter level for the NASDAQ. So anyways, there's a lot of things in which we could break down, kind of talk through with these charts and all of that. But my biggest goal in this video, turns out to be 16 minutes already at this point. But my biggest goal with this was just to show that we've been stalking this trade since last week, right? We sat through one day right here. We sat through 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, and then finally on the 5th day, it presented an opportunity for us, and we were able to capitalize on that, right? So while we had our plan from the very first day to get over 346.74s, it never set up. And when it never set up, and it's scripted the way in which it should, or way in which it should be, which is the same exact thing in which I had here, right? On that morning of the earnings, I had the same exact write-up. I had the same exact levels, 346.74s. I had the same plan. I wanted over that level, pullbacks to it, either open above, retest, right? I have the same exact requirements each and every single time. And when they're not met, then I just have to sit and wait for the new opportunity to present itself, which ultimately ends up happening yesterday here, and then makes a, 12-point move with a 2-cent push through the level on the downside. This low is 334.69s in Microsoft there. So again, a lot of things to come together here for this trade, but that's what you want from your trades. You want all of these things to come together exactly how you script them, or at least to a large degree of how you script them, right? Maybe you say, hey, Russell's going to make new lows, and it ends up being the NASDAQ that makes new lows, and that's what gives us the divergence, right? Something like that. But we want as many of those things in our favor for these trades, and when they set up and they work out in the way in which they should, then that's when we're able to step in and capture these moves that are good for 687%, much like this one was here in Microsoft, with basically there was no stress. There was no risk. I shouldn't say no risk. There was a stress-free trade to this. Obviously, we took our initial risk when we put the position on and all of those things, but the stress-free management of that position was really, really nice. And the reason being is because I didn't have a position on until the trade was ready and set up and told me, hey, now you can put your position on. We've done the things in which you want to see done. And then, boom, the market returns a favor and it works out nicely. So anyways, that's what I've got here for you guys in tonight's free video breaking down, reviewing that Microsoft trade. If you're still watching at this point, we're almost 20 minutes into this video. There's a lot of little nuggets in this video. I would rewatch it personally if you're trying to become a trader and just see what you can pick up on and the things in which I'm seeing and talking through each and every time. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below if you did. Thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace.